strength isn't just about lifting heavier weights, it's about building a body that performs, adapts, and lasts for decades. Welcome to the ACSS Method, a strength axis production. I'm your host, John Parker, certified strength and conditioning specialist, strong first elite, beast tamer, and functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. I've been a private strength coach for over 17 years here in San Diego, California, and I've dedicated my life to the pursuit and mastery of strength and conditioning. My approach has always been functional and sustainable, combining intelligent training, lifestyle practices, and recovery strategies to help people build real strength and long-term health. This podcast is where we explore the science, philosophy, and practice of strength, from barbell training and kettlebells to variable resistance, metabolic health, and the deeper principles that drive performance and longevity. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Harambe System. Harambe System is a compact variable resistance training platform built around two core pieces of engineering. The Cyberplate, a stainless steel base with 12 precision rollers, and a patented pulley and sling system that spins smoothly and opens wide for easy loading of stacked bands. Together, they are designed to bridge the gap between bands and weights, combining the joint-friendly feel of bands with smoother, more consistent loading. And it works. Users are pulling 400 plus pound deadlifts, benching over 225 pounds, and back squatting over 300 pounds, training exclusively with the system. Most band platforms use static edges that create friction, wear out your bands, and reduce tension at the bottom of the lift. The Cyberplate addresses that by routing the band across spinning rollers instead of fixed edges, helping deliver more consistent resistance from the first rep to the last. And research has also shown that full range of motion under real tension is what drives muscle growth. And a 2025 study confirmed that as long as tension is present through the full range, muscles grow regardless of where peak resistance falls. That is the principle the system is engineered around. Learn more at harambesystem.com/John Parker Ballistic. Over the past 2 years, variable resistance training has completely changed the way I look at strength. What I thought would be a simple experiment turned into a complete shift in philosophy. I realized I could build muscle, maintain strength, and express power without constantly beating up my joints or feeling wrecked from training. More importantly, it forced me to become a better lifter. Variable resistance exposes sloppy movement immediately. You can't just rely on momentum and ego. It demands intention, control, and real mind-muscle connection. It also taught me to auto-regulate more naturally. Some days are high output, some days require more control, better positioning, and cleaner movement. The system adapts with you instead of trapping you inside fixed loading patterns, and that's become a huge part of the strength axis philosophy. Train with the energy you actually have, not the energy you wish you had. I also appreciate how it allows me to explore movement and challenge range of motion in a way that feels athletic instead of restrictive. Training feels more like practice and less like punishment. For me, the goal isn't just getting stronger, it's staying strong while still having energy to hike, ride, explore, and live a capable life outside the gym. So, if you're interested in building real strength, protecting your body, and applying intelligent training principles, you're in the right place. Welcome to the ACSS Method. All right, everyone, welcome back to the ACSS Method. This is episode 9, and we're talking about breaking the mold with training, career paths, and finding your own way. And today I have Mike from Hybrid Resistance on the channel. So Mike, nice to officially meet you.
Awesome to meet you and talk to you again, John.
All right. So I found Mike off of YouTube, and this is early on when I started researching variable resistance. Lo and behold, Mike had a channel and he had all these reviews of all the different products on there. He was training with them. He was kind of doing a hybrid. He does all the stuff that he likes to do with strength and conditioning from his home gym, but he used bands to quite an extent. So I reached out to Mike. I wanted to learn about him, and I actually subscribed to his YouTube channel, like his private member section, and I found his videos to be completely insightful. His career path really got me interested. He has a similar education to what I've had, and how he's gone along in his journey since that. So, Mike, I mean, I have so many questions to ask you, but kind of first off, how long have you been in the strength training arena so far?
Well, if you count professionally, this was my full, I guess, in every different airline I went into, this was like my whole career. I didn't really deviate at all too much, other than like, I guess, titles and stuff like that. But I think I got that bug, as we sort of say, like this age, probably middle of high school, and kind of haven't looked back, really. long and short of it.
Okay, so that's cool. So probably when you were in high school, kind of like me, there were resources out there. There were the bodybuilding magazines, which I read. I read Men's Health, and then finally found Testosterone Nation online, which back then it was pretty much the only research. What were you looking at back then, back in high school, to kind of learn about strength and conditioning, or were you going to a gym, or did you lift in high school? What did that look like?
Definitely, and I wasn't athletic. I mean, I was athletic, but I wasn't into sports. So I think I was always kind of unique. I was always into like nowadays, like nerd culture is very popular. But when I was younger, I was into like comic books, superhero movies, like the old Captain America movie that was like so bad. Like I loved that. But nowadays it's so popular. It's funny as it got more popular, I don't like it as much. I think I always had that personality where I like things that people don't like. If they start liking, I'll find something else. And so I think fitness was kind of like that. My friends were, of course, into sports, and I was fairly athletic, so I do football and wrestling and well, so I did basketball and stuff for a bit, but in high school, God, I was for sure, I wanted to be either a rock star. That was like my mentality. I love the party lifestyle and I had a good time, but really it was, I mean, fitness did change my life. I think once I picked up a barbell and started doing stuff, I'm like, well, this is just another creative outlet. I feel like I was always kind of creative with my imagination. Like I love just being in the basement, playing with action figures. I had a close friend, we'd make movies. I actually thought I was gonna be a filmmaker at some point. So I think how I kind of fell into it was just like a natural passion. And I think we could explore this later. And I always think of this all the time. I have a couple nephews where I think of this a lot, where one got this bug, so to speak. I think some people, it's weird how like, I think some people have it or they have this, they can understand what I'm talking about. And some people, it's a little more of a, they kind of have to get the wheels moving. It's more of a chore with fitness.
I just want to add, like, the nerd culture thing that's gotten very popular. I never understood that either because as a kid, I loved Marvel comics, I love Star Wars and all the science fiction, but now it's very trendy to be nerdy, and I don't know, I think you just like what you like. But I wanted to know about the origin. So you picked up the barbell, you found some creativity in the barbell, and that is so foreign for some people, like you mentioned, because they see training or working out as such an errand to do, and it's not something they want. But what you're kind of saying, or at least what I'm hearing, is that there's more to it. There's more to it in your brain rather than just your body. So, what did those early days look like? Did you start with barbell training or powerlifting, or what was that like?
I would say it was bodybuilding, no question. And I think, I think it's a kind of an evolution. You start growing up a little, you're older and now, and you're starting to see these freaks in magazines where I was, when I was less than 10 years old, you'd see these magazines in the supermarket that time when you walk around, like, oh, they're just, who are these, like, whatever weirdos. But then you start getting into it, like, well, that's possible. And I think once you start going in the gym and you're working out, the magazines and obviously the attention you're getting, that's a huge thing, just confidence boosters, all that stuff. I went down that culture. I had friends, and I could talk about this. There's so many things we can get into, but I think the group of people I hung out with, they also got really into fitness. I'm not saying we all influence each other, but no question, you know what it's like if you're around people that are into fitness. It's either one person or a few people, but they'll all they grow up kind of around you in that same way. So, but for me personally, it was going in the gym, just seeing the progress. Sports supplements was huge. I mean, as much as we knock supplements, of course, you don't need them for all the results. And no question, I spent so much money on worthless supplements. I do attribute that as, that's a belief system into the supplements, but that just the whole process of going to the gym, taking supplements, researching supplements, early internet days was so huge that once I kind of got into college, I was always still like, I had the bug. I always say this in the channel, like I had it and I never missed a week off because it was never a chore. It was like brushing my teeth. I wanted to be in there. And once I got to college, it was my wife was a kinesiology major, and I wanted to go into film. I was in athletic training a little bit, but like none of this, the science didn't interest me. And granted, I was out still having fun. My job in my head was like, if I could, I wasn't thinking too far ahead, but I was thinking, if I could just work out for a living, that'd be awesome. Because I really was living like the Venice Beach lifestyle in college. I'm like, I just want to go to the gym, work out, go to classes, go back to the gym, have fun on the weekends, have fun with my friends, whatever. But it was actually, I can pause there, but I will say it was middle of college when I met somebody and who taught me about, he was in NASM, National Academy of Sports Medicine, was kind of early in its infancy, I think, is bridging the gap from, it's so commercial now, but at the time, Dr. Michael Clark, who founded the NASM, was a physical therapist, and he started really bringing in, I know you know this stuff, but bringing in the functional training, of course, was huge, with Paul Chek, we can get into that, but bringing in kind of movement patterns, corrective exercise stuff, that when I went to this place to get an internship, it was this high-end at-home training facility in Chicago, and I had a mentor there who really exposed me to stuff like PT on the net. I don't know if you remember that
I do.
back in the day. Yeah, and so he had me sit down, like I didn't know what that was, and just sitting down, listening to coaches. That's why I first heard Paul Chek was PT on the net, just audio interviews in this little office. And he just said, sit in here. We're going to just spend 2 hours going through. He would give me something to listen to. And that was like secret knowledge. So I didn't know any of this stuff. And corrective exercise outside of bodybuilding was you felt like you're in this inner club. And that's when I realized the discovery of just loving education, which really cascaded everything. Before that, I'd be interested in looking into rabbit holes and things like that. Like I was into, again, same thing, UFOs, weird things were big. I was one of those weirdos. I'd go to Barnes and Nobles and go to like the supernatural section. At the time, I actually told my parents once I wanted to be a ufologist. I'm not in that stuff anymore, but I'll stop there. But yeah, just that quest for knowledge really started, I think, during that period, which we all
Okay.
both grew up in, I think.
Okay, beautiful. So I love that. I have a couple follow-up questions on that. We can keep this short. As far as the supplementation goes, was it more like creatine and whey protein, or did you get into that Jacked 3D or NO Explode?
NO Explode later. I think the earliest one, I think this is still true. I think it was NO2. If you remember, the company was MRI. And I really think they've patented that alpha ketoglutarate. I believe that was their formulation. It was just alpha ketoglutarate L-arginine. It's GNC, and they sold this thing for a crazy amount of money. And I'd save my money working to get this bottle. But it was the first, like it was a pre-pump mix. I think that was the first thing I took. And then you had Celtec, of course, the early creatine sugar. That was kind of like my secret. I feel like I blew up from that. But those two together, and I would go through pre-workout phases, but it really was the L-arginine, and I'd find derivatives of them. But at the time, it was hard to find that just that L-arginine, alpha-ketoglutarate kind of pre-pump mix that I'll stop there, but well, I won't. But there's in that marketing thing, they gave you a book. So I went to GNC, that book had a lot of information in it. And it was like how to take the products and how to train and what to eat. And that again was like, I digested that like I was a kid with a record. Like I'm just reading that top to bottom, all like, and I put so much belief in that supplement that I know my results did not come from that. But as a kid, I'm thinking, well, this is like the one too that's getting me where I want to go.
Oh, awesome. I mean, my first introduction to anything sports supplements was NO Explode. I was in college. And with that stuff, I mean, it was like taking drugs for me. I'd go to the gym and I would crush a workout, maybe an hour and a half. And then I'd go to lecture afterward and I was still so pumped. And I remember the same thing happens to everyone. I started with one scoop and then eventually I was up to three scoops and I got to a point where I just quit pre-workouts. Now, one more follow-up question. So when you started lifting in high school, were you going to like a commercial gym or did you have some weights at home?
No, it was a YMCA. My parents did have weights growing up. I had older brothers, I think, or something too. Like my brother was a very type A, like stereotypical like 80s bigger, the 90 guys. But he played an influence. I think just he was 10 years older than me, but for sure it was the YMCA. But those types of crowds of that age group and demographic, I think had an influence because I think it's a little different now, honestly. Just the
Yeah.
weight rooms in general. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I started lifting because I played football. So it was kind of mandatory. We had to do that stuff and we did the big lifts. We were tested on bench press and back squat and power clean. And then we do our 40-yard dash and all that stuff. Kind of fun early on to have that competition, but I just started loving it and kept doing it in college. Now, you had kind of mentioned getting into education and falling in love with the education. And I think that's what separates guys like you from the rest. We have so many influencers online, but few people actually have the experience. Where did that evolution take you from the PT on the net and getting that internship into your next step? Did you become a personal trainer at that point and start with your own Rolodex of clients? Or what did that look like?
Yeah, the place I was at, it was a high-end like personal training place, and the guy he was like he was a lifer too. They hired him as being like a director of education. He had a great gig, but he was if you ever met like an old he was probably when I was in my early 20s, he was in his probably mid 40s. You know, wasn't married, but he had a lifestyle. Really cool guy, but just one of those like lifer personal trainers that had all sorts of stories under his belt. But he had a lot of experience, and I trusted him. And a lot of sales stuff too. But it was, I think PT on the net. Then I think I obviously had to get a certification. I think I did go ACSM was the first one I got, which I think at the time was actually pretty new. ACSM's personal training certification came out not too long ago. Really, when I first got it, did not pass the first time. I'm not ashamed to say that. But that was first book I cracked open, and I was like a science-ish book. And I'm like, I love this stuff, and I was loving it. They didn't pass the first time. I think it was more like getting the gist what the questions are like, and then pass the second time. And then once I got a certification, it was just kind of like I don't have this now, but I was a certification junkie at that point. Like I love just getting certifications. Nesta was big at that time. I think they're still around from California. They had all those crazy ones, like they had the sports hypnotist. Everything I could take, I spent my money on certification. So I had a laundry list, which later on to the fun point would open up so many doors because I would just go and I would just drop I had a little folder and have my certifications stacked, and that seemed like that was enough for people to like give me any kind of position I wanted, which was always kind of fun. But yeah, and then of course, and then the Paul Chek too. Definitely Paul Chek was hugely influential too. But it was that same mentality, was just like with superheroes and researching, going in little rabbit holes. I just took that and put it into fitness, really.
I understand. When I became a personal trainer, I hadn't been a trainer, but I wanted to be a trainer. So I got this from my mom, but she would always read things twice. And she went through nursing school when I was probably 10 to 12 or 13. I just always saw her studying, and she always got these killer marks. So I got a job at a gym much before I was a personal trainer. I had an aspiration, but I worked at the front desk. And other trainers would leave all of their textbooks, and I read every single textbook I could find about twice. Finally got my CSCS back in 2008. They let me take it because it was my senior year of college. I passed that test. And then I met some trainers and they said, hey, you should check out this Chek Institute because you're the type of guy who likes to get really nitty gritty in the details. So that's when I went to Chek Institute for holistic lifestyle coach. And then eventually I got the exercise coach certification. I understand that do you have both of those certifications as well?
Yeah, I had
And
both of those, and I did the extras because at the time you needed, yeah, extras. There was so I had the HLC Holistic Lifestyle Coach 1 with JP Sears. We talked about
yeah.
that, the great JP Sears, and then
Mhm.
that's so funny that he's, yeah. Anyway, like, and then the Exercise Coach 1, which was the intro check one, but then there was like after that was like the prerequisite. He was a great businessman. I mean, he did buy all
Mhm.
his stuff to get the freaking thing. The Exercise Coach 1, and then you had like I think there was like 4 levels. So I think the next level or two after that one too, like
Mhm.
seminars. So.
Yes,
But he
yes, he
he
was a
was
great businessman.
influential, I think. He was influential, I think, a lot in my education as well, because when I listened to his talks, even though now I don't know if I probably don't agree as much as I would have agreed to, like now if I went back and watched his stuff, but he was really good about just throwing off quotes. Obviously, very intelligent,
Mhm.
and just throw out books and influences in people, and I'd write that down. And he'd mention books that I'd go back and again buy them used, and go back and follow his kind of steps, which again definitely influenced me for sure.
I agree. I mean, great influence early on, and same. You kind of grow with someone, or maybe you grow away from them, but you still appreciate that base they gave you. But I joke about this, and don't tell this story very often. But you can still find this video on YouTube about Paul Chek tearing his shirt off and saying, "If your doctor doesn't look like me, don't listen to your doctor." And it's hilarious because the guy he's in his like mid 60s at least right now, but he's so strong and he's completely jacked. And in that moment, I said, I'm always going to train with my shirt off. So that made me just like, okay, I got to make sure I'm in good shape if I'm going to be educating people and doing this stuff. But really cool. So after the Chek Institute, it's holistic based. You learn a lot more than exercise physiology. You learn about nutrition. You learn obviously digestion and all the nitty gritty stuff. Where did education take you after that?
So I have my own, at that point, I probably was just starting. It was good. Right? I never had to work at a. I take that back. I did work at a couple of Globo gyms. I don't know why I said I didn't, but I never had to start my entry level stuff with a Globo gym type of situation. So I was into this high end place that was just all at home personal training. So I would get in my Subaru, and I had power blocks, and I had load crap in the car and the hatchback, and go to their house, bring it all into these really expensive, just obviously wealthy people who could afford stuff like that. And then right away, I'm thinking, okay, this is what they're paying. They could just pay me this, and starting to think, how can I start my own business? So that kind of started doing at home personal training with my own business. And I think when I started doing that, I went back to school to get a master's in exercise science only because I thought that would help my business. So I was doing that at nighttime. Then when I was doing that, my master's, I realized I liked the education. Again, probably again, Paul Chek and just sitting through, just digesting material. I loved going to conferences and speakers. That rubbed off on me too. And then that propelled me to think like, well, teaching would be a nice gig, especially just summers off. I like that. Checks the box, things like that I just really love. And just seemed like the quality of life was really good. So that made me think about going back in a PhD, which initially was in ergonomics. Cause again, Paul Chek and corrective exercise at the time was huge. So I was really into like low back stuff. No question I never really thought about this now, but no question Paul Chek had a huge influence in that. Posture was huge, of course, the Chek Institute. So that was my focus. I was hyper focused in biomechanics. When I was there though, I realized like I can't do this like forever because I don't want to be deep into research. That's not what I want to do. I just want to be a practitioner. And then like 4 years, guy who I would have been working under would have been like studying the foot and foot research. I'm like, I'd have made a big mistake. So I had to do a detour and got a different PhD that was a little more kind of holistic. Still loving to kind of teach in the kinesiology exercise field, and that's kind of what I did. I kind of just snuck into education. But even when I was doing that, getting my PhD, it was still working full time. So I was a full time trainer in a gym, was an independent contractor, and then at the time I also had this great gig where again I walked in it was a gold gym. We had a company that you probably maybe seen this or heard of this, where they have a company is contracted inside the gym, you know, some big company. So they had different locations and Gold's gyms and various things in New England on some chains. And the guy just put me, I said, the guy was kind of definitely a sales guy, and these guys I worked with were just straight up alcoholics. I mean, they were not trainers, but they were just the business guys. And I just said they really want me to work for them, whatever. They said, well, you got the look and you got the knowledge, you know, and you're going to school for this. I dropped my certification pile. They didn't know any of this stuff was. So I just said, well, let me be the director of education, like the guy who taught me, and let me just kind of train the trainers. And they gave me a sweet gig. I got paid a decent amount of money. Didn't have to really even do any training. I just had to walk around checking the trainers, check what they were doing, and I gave little lectures. That was really kind of a mini dream job as I was going to school.
Okay. And then eventually you transitioned to teaching full time while doing training on the side, or what did that look like for you?
Yeah, when I first got my first time professor job, and that was again, this is a big thing where at this point I'm in my late 20s at this point, so married to and trying to have kids. So it's weird how fast, as you know, life just goes super fast. So it feels like I kind of just started doing that. Once that started, the training took a back seat, and I was doing online stuff still with people, and I still did YouTube, and I would just mess around in different accounts. I did podcasts and different things, but my focus was still at that time. I was new to teaching in that setting, so I was putting a lot of effort just trying to take that seriously and trying to do the best I could. And also we had kids coming, so stuff kind of got derailed. I think there was like I got a phase in life, I would just say, that kind of broke up the things so much.
Understood. So you have a good following on YouTube now. Did you jump into any social media early on? I mean, social media has been around over 20 years now. I forget when YouTube was created, but did you ever have a vision of growing a social media account that would eventually feed your income? What did that look like?
Yeah, I did a couple things, and a couple things were good. I don't, I almost want to say it, but I'll save it because I think it's off the internet now. But I had some things that were kind of niche at the time. Again, it was Paul Chek influence, and we could talk about diets, but there's all sorts of stories and rabbit holes of into nutrition and not. But at the time, too, like the paleo movement was huge. Price Pottinger Foundation, I was deep into that. So I had kind of another thing that was more of a nutrition that I was really kind of going into. But I also just started to think, with everything in life, I can't commit to something that I can't see myself doing. If there's any instance where I feel like I can't do this for a while, like I don't want to go too deep, even though I saw the potential was clearly there, that this was niche enough, it was trending enough, I could make money off this. I can't make money off something that's not going to be authentic and real. A lot of those things would kind of deviate in and out, basically. So the home gym now, this is just more of a fun project that turned into more of it than what I thought it was going to.
Oh, so the home gym stuff with the YouTube, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I was still working with, like I said, the online clients that I had, I was still doing to that, but I'm also not like I'm do Instagram now, but like I got off Facebook years ago. I technically have a little account 'cause just like buy stuff, but that otherwise I don't engage in Facebook or any social media. I think we've talked about that too. I mean, social media, it's one of those, you kind of have to play the game, but I'm definitely not, I'm kind of learning trial by fire more or less.
Yeah, and in my own experience, I've been on social media since it came to the university. So this is 2004. It came to my school in San Diego. Got on Facebook. It was crazy to me a couple of years ago to realize I would have been on social media at that point 20 years. Now it's been 22 years, but these things change all the time. I have gravitated more toward long form content for my own education or to educate my clients. That's why I love YouTube and Substack. And the podcasts are really good too, because you can talk with a lot of nuance to whatever guests you're speaking to, but it'll continue to change. And I'm not sure where those changes are going. Again, I found you on YouTube and subscribing as like a private subscriber to hear what you thought about nutrition, to hear what you thought about certain equipment, and just get a really honest take on this stuff. So, have you changed your approach? Let's just talk about with social media. Has there been a part of you that wanted to do things one way and then you've had to change your approach? And if so, how come?
I guess short answer to that would be yes. I use this as a default. It's always like a shotgun operation over here. So I kind of go off of like gut instinct. I always want to be different. I guess the balancing act of like, you want to be authentic, you want to be different, you want to do what you think you'd actually watch. And for sure, I know I'm not catering to everybody, no question about that. But you also realize, like, yeah, it's a business.
Yep.
You kind of play the game a little bit, so you have to understand some of those things. But I think I've walked a decent line, no question. I think I'm still could learn more and just putting more production and more things to do it. But I feel like it's a manageable enough right now where I guess that's a short answer. It's manageable. I tell people if they're starting something, it's got to be something you can manage. If you have these lofty goals, which I've done in the past, and you do all this stuff, it can seem very daunting. And if I were to sit down and tell everybody what I do and what I did do to get to the point I am now just doing this, I'm sure like I would like, this is crazy. I mean, I'm just editing a video the first time was like, or doing even getting an Instagram years ago, which I only did like last year, started
Uh-huh.
doing it. I'm like, I can't be making videos all the time. This is like, this is annoying. I just like, so I think you slowly start to learn it and you find what works for you, but no question, I'm still could learn a lot.
Yeah, understood. And I think a lot of trainers want to be influencers or whatever you want to call it. And I think what happens is you want to do something new, you want to do something exciting. And that's where a lot of this workout of the day culture comes from. And granted, maybe some of these programs are good. I try and encourage people to follow a program that's specifically suited toward them. And with all this stuff also comes the knowledge base that you need to edit videos, how to research subjects, and maybe put some credibility into this stuff. But there aren't a lot of people who truly walk the walk like you. And I found most of your videos are very simple. It's just a single camera view. You're talking about your experience, but I've always found the right people will find you if you're putting out the information that they actually want. So I think probably for you, I know for me, I don't want everyone to come to my channel. I want the people who are already motivated, who want to make a change, or might just need a little bit percent nuance to get to the next level. And as far as an outside observer looking at your YouTube channel, that's kind of how I see you. And it seems like it's been very successful just doing the basic stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I mean, no question, like niches are a thing. Like that's a reality. I think of life as having a niche. I think that helps people bring people to you as long as it's not forced. There's so many different directions I want to go with that. But yeah, I mean, I can pause there. I think niches are important. I think with this channel, like for sure, the total gym was a big thing, like using the total gym, Saudi as trainer. And for those who don't know, I know you know John, but Paul Chek again. I gotta like this whole episode be dedicated to him, I guess. He was one of the first ones that really pushed I saw pushing the total gym. I mean, his early DVDs that I had, he'd mentioned a little bit. You'd see him on it. But he was even now. I think he's credited as being like a big promoter of the Total Gym for that company.
Mhm.
And so I had like knockoff ones, so I was always using that. We didn't talk about training style too much yet, but my training style was always pretty eclectic. Once I was still, I would say, more bodybuilding focused. Like I never always had that, but very eclectic in the modalities. So I knew there's a lot of people like me too, but I also think this is maybe the important thing. Whether it's, I think for myself and for everybody, I think you do have. It's cliche, but you got to find. I think you got to be true to yourself. Some people want to copy and paste. So even with this home gym demographic thing that I'm in right now, a lot of people just kind of copy and paste kind of what they're saying or seeing. And like you, John, I mean, obviously we can see you with your shirt off, so we know you're walking the walks. And the credibility is huge. That's why I love physical fitness, because you can't fake it so much. I mean, the people can see like right away. I mean, yes, we all know an out of shape trainer, etc. But just like if I can see a good dancer, I don't even need like a PhD in dance or whatever to understand like that's a good dance, like that I can't do that. Same thing with exercise and movement. So you can get on the internet and be of course research this stuff or go to school and read a textbook, but you're not gonna right away it proofs in the pudding if you can do it or not do it.
Mhm.
And there's so much we could talk about with that too. Like, I think a lot of guys in this even fitness space who are starting out older when starting strength was huge, and I think even garage gym culture started growing. It was just about purely their influence was pushing raw weight, barbells, dumbbells, and that's all it was versus the nuance of I'll use the term that the functional strength type of modalities of just can you control movement, can you do different novel modalities that again, if I didn't learn that earlier on, I get that question a lot. I'm sure you do, John, about like how do you get so flexible or how can you do those movements? And I wasn't super skilled athletic, but I was trying different exercises and doing things differently that when I would go to the gym, especially when I was doing independent contracting during that like a 4 or 5 year period too, my gimmick was I'd bring a hockey bag full of stuff. And my whole thing was I wanted to be different. I wanted to be someone that could show you how to use those TRX straps, which were just coming around, or kettlebells, how to do a kettlebell swing or something like that. That for the most part, you could say, well, yeah, I can go on the internet, but I can tell like Mike's actually kind of looks like it's kind of smooth. So he kind of knows what he's doing versus just jerking stuff around. So I think all those stuff made sense, but just I think you got to be passionate, obviously, but I think having a niche and finding where your own path is, I think is huge.
I love that. And later on in the conversation, I do want to talk to you about the fact that I know a lot of other personal trainers listen to this podcast or read my Substack. And often I think people think they're going to be stuck in like a big box gym forever. I had to go my own path, which was private training, and that's been very good for me and some of the online stuff. And you have had almost multiple careers inside the fitness industry. And I'd love for you to talk about that. But first, what you are well known for on YouTube is the home gym stuff. And here's my perspective on that. About 10 years ago, exactly, I always have loved training, but I would work in a gym and I would do my training and just get constantly interrupted. And I'd always take the time to talk to people just to be polite, but I really wanted to get after it. So I brought kettlebells home and I started amassing my collection, my kettlebells and my dumbbells. And then I started to encourage other people that, hey, you should just have weights at home. That way there are no excuses, blah, blah, blah. Finally, when the pandemic struck, everyone was training on FaceTime or on Zoom. And that was the time where it became very acceptable to have a home gym. And I know most of the people I know who train have a home gym now. So where did the home gym evolution start for you?
When I had I was when I was out east going to a PhD, and I was doing all that work I was doing, it's, you start getting your own money. So I could start buying my own house too at the times. I started amassing a fitness equipment. So I did actually have a few iterations of like various home gyms. At one point, I think I had a bench. I had some odd implement stuff. Again, I was into that weird. I was also hugely into martial arts. That had a huge influence in my life from like my age 22 to like 28, 27, where I was really into like Chinese, Jap, all sorts of martial arts. I would be going somewhere every day and learn something. So I had weird training modalities, like martial arts stuff. I'd be hitting myself to like condition my body with things. And so I had the kegs, weird odd implement things. I had cable crossovers. I had a bench. So I had some weird things in my house, but I've said this before on the channel too. I would use that stuff from time to time, but it definitely wasn't my staple. I don't think it got as much use as like they should have been for the space they took up. There's a treadmill in there too. So that really, because the gym had just had so much more toys, this was more convenient. And I honestly thought I would say it, I got a better workout there for me, at least, just being on my carpeted space. I think space is huge about building a home gym. Then when moved out closer where I was now, we had a different house in a garage. We were a small single car garage. I was really into Olympic lifting at the time. So again, went back to just the next iteration of home gym was kind of Olympic lifting gym, just really basic barbell squat stands. Again, I had kettlebells throughout that and adjustable dumbbells. And then it really evolved. Of course, COVID was huge. That just forced me to be inside. And I'll say all the time, like I was a gym addict. Like I never thought I would leave the gym. I mean, I loved going to the gym, the ritual of going to the gym, of just getting away from stuff and all the different features. And I would have multiple gym memberships at a time. So you couldn't take me out of a gym. I never thought it'd be possible. So it really was finding that right tool. In this case, for me, it was the Total Gym or a Saudi Men's trainer that made it work for me. I'll stop there because I can go in more detail on that. But it's finding the right tool, I think, for the job. And I think also sharing that too is huge, because one thing about being in a gym is that there's no one to share stuff with. So when I get that fun thing that I liked working on, and I was sharing with people like asking me questions, and it was fun. Even though monetarily wise, I mean, yes, you get subscribers, we're not like getting tons of money from that. I wasn't trying to sell myself. It was just me sharing stuff, and I had that community building. And it just kind of worked organically from there.
Okay. So for the listener, what do you think are the home gym minimums that they should have?
I always say it really depends on the person. But you're a good example, John. I mean, I don't know if I would, like, again, it's just what you're into and what sticks for you. Some people a lot of it's personality based. When especially I'm working with people now online, the biggest thing I do, and I know you know this, every trainer who's been around a while knows, it's psychologically, that's one of the biggest things, trying to get inside that person's head. Now, I mean, usually it's great is that, especially with YouTube, you find like-minded people are attracted to the same people. So people are finding out the channel already kind of into the same things I'm liking, but they might not be. And the way they like programming might be different. Some people are really type A. They want literal benchmarks and how can I progressively overload this. So short answer to that, I think it depends on the person. Of course, the goal too. I don't sugarcoat things. People say like, I want to get path A to path B. But again, a lot of it, if you're not going to stick to it, and if you're not going to learn the movements, there's a lot of variables in there. So I can definitely give you a better answer than that, but I think it's hard because there's a lot of nuance and variables that go into that answer.
I agree. Well, I am pretty well known, I guess, for kettlebells. I got really into kettlebells back in 2014, my first certification, and I just went all the way. And my background's actually in barbells and dumbbells and kind of power building, which I did through my 20s. Loved all that stuff, and I still love the barbells and dumbbells. Most of my home gym clients, they have a set of kettlebells that we'll use. If I can get them to get a TRX, obviously a pull-up bar, some basic stuff like that. But I wanted to ask you, or maybe even tease you about this. I'm all about minimalism just because it's helped my brain work in the proper avenues, but it's kind of a joke. I'm kind of a closet maximalist. So it works like this for me. I like things to be so simple. That way, when I want to do what I want to do, I can go to the max. So it's really ironic how I see this stuff. And in my home gym, I mean, I only use a couple tools on like a monthly basis, but I'm looking around, I have the nicest gear that I could possibly get, and it's taken a lot of time to collect that stuff. So correct me if I'm wrong, but with your home gym stuff, it seems like you're cleaning stuff out all the time and bringing stuff back in. Is that true?
Yeah, and I think it's weird. Again, there's a business side to it. I gotta stop using air quotes so much. There is a business side to it. I think if people are doing this, like I jokingly say I'm not a home gym reviewer, only in the sense that if I truly was just a home gym reviewer, I would just the smartest thing is like get stuff in and get it out, get stuff in, and get it out. It doesn't make sense to have certain things in here. So again, right next to me is a squat max. It's a very big thing. Makes sense for me to get this thing out of here and get a leg press machine. But this is, in my opinion, like the best leg machine for me and what I like doing with it. So um, I always say stuff has to kind of make the cut. There are things I will get in, like there's a squat rack here that this thing is balancing on. There's one here, there's a third one here. This is actually the craziest it's ever been right now. Some of these will be moving out, but yeah, I always try and get stuff. If something's in that makes the cut, it stays basically. But otherwise, yeah, it gets moved out. But it is kind of funny. People have joked around like your workouts are pretty much assembling the stuff, which I do assemble the stuff myself, and then working out on it. So I literally am always doing the Tony Horde muscle confusion. I guess you could say that.
That's hilarious. A funny story I saw on one of the private videos that you offer on YouTube. I think you had this little device. It's a cardboard cutter for all the boxes.
Oh yeah, I got it somewhere around here. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got one. I went on Amazon right away. I'm like, I need one of those. So I'm outside every Tuesday night before trash day cutting it, but just wanted to add that. So with the home gym stuff, I know you like the Squat Max. Quick question before I get to my real question. You had that concept too. It's kind of like a hybrid flywheel push and pull machine. How is that going?
Yeah.
Do you like that and recommend that product?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Again, that's another one that some people they see it. This goes back to just knowing yourself. The more your training you have, the better all the stuff's going to be, and it's going to be the easier purchase to make it. Some stuff is a gamble. Like that was kind of a gamble, but I kind of saw it. I'm like, I can see myself just getting on this and having fun with it. But I love it. My short answer. It's over here. I just did it today, actually. Now I don't put a lot of time into it. So if you're thinking about like time actually going on the machine. So like I did, and I paid for that one. So it wasn't like I got that for free. So that was one I wanted. But in an average workout, like it's maybe used 2 to 3 times a week and it's little intervals. Like a totality of a workout, maybe it gets used for 5 minutes, 6 minutes or something. But I guess there's
Mostly
a lot of things in your gym.
at the end of the training session?
Sometimes I do it in the beginning, but mostly at the end. It's like, that's what I like about it. It's one of those things where you ever had that, like you're doing a workout, maybe you're probably more structured than I am, but sometimes I'm doing something like I want to cash out a little bit or just do a little some extra. It's just a mindless thing to get on and just push or pull and even do legs for leg day.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I think for most people, beginners or intermediates, they typically need to follow a program so they can actually practice the movements that they're trying to get better at, whether the goal is strength, power, or hypertrophy. But I think when you're advanced, things change a lot because you might not be bought into a rigid methodology that you once were, and instead you know your body. So that's kind of what you're telling me right now. You want some novel approaches, even though you're probably still doing like a horizontal press day or a vertical press day or back and biceps. It doesn't really matter. I think this novelty can kind of make things fun when you may have gotten bored of some other stuff. And it kind of leads me to my next question for, let's say, the home gym stuff, because I know a lot of us are curious about this. What do you think, maybe in a general approach, what's overrated versus what's essential with a home gym build out?
You want to give me any more specific? I can answer that, but any more specific context you think, maybe for a certain person?
Okay, so if we have the space, I design a lot of my clients' home gyms. I would like to have a power rack. I think that is essential. However, versus what might be overrated, one of my clients got the Rogue Fitness trolleys, like the jammer machine, and we ended up not having even space to use those things. I see you using yours, but in those kind of terms, what's overrated to have? Like, would it be a cable machine? Is that an essential, or is that something you don't need? What are your thoughts on that?
I guess I'd answer it to somebody who's already, I would say going to the gym is always great. So you're kind of familiar with like the basic stuff. I mean, it's hard to beat that if you're someone who's already used to going to the gym and you're a typical person who likes resistance training. It's hard to beat just getting a squat rack. I take that back though a little bit now, because I think now at a different time in my life now that I think there are a lot of people now that like they tell me they don't like to squat or they don't want to do a vertical push. They don't like doing bench press. I'm like, maybe a squat. You don't need a squat rack. Just get it just takes up minimal space. So if you have a squat rack and a barbell, why not? And then I think a cable machine is good because it's just it's one of those bread and butter things. So my answer would be probably pretty boring. I mean, barbell and weights for some people, there's a lot of people I say do not get a barbell and weights because you're not going to use it and just there's no sense of doing it. Cables I like just because everyone likes just basic press downs. I really only use a cable pretty much for press downs, pull downs, bicep curls, the Paul Chek rotations,
They're
the
so
ladder
good.
lunges and rotations. Yeah.
They're great.
So that's what I would do that for. But some people are different. Like you're a huge kettlebell guy, and it's like I go through phases where that's a tool for me that always hard to get into. I love kettlebells, and it's just maybe where I'm at right now, just to plug and play my brain. I just never want to gravitate to grab them. But again, if you gave it to me for a while, I could for sure be ripping on those for a while. But cables, barbells, weights, dumbbells, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's a great answer. I like the free weight stuff too. And if someone wants to have two benches and two barbells and an easy bar or even two easy bars, I always say we can definitely use that. Now we can do really great supersets and giant sets, but are they essential? Absolutely not. And I'll just add this maybe so you understand my perspective. I love training in general, but I kind of force myself to give things up and then I go a completely different avenue. My thought process has always been that it's going to help me develop better mentally and
Mm.
physically to completely give one thing up and start something new, almost like a martial arts practice where you just go super hard into one thing at a time. And hopefully, along that path, you can maintain everything you built with your body, with the barbell or the kettlebell, whatever tool it is. And then eventually, when you come back to that, you found a new love for that. And for me, currently, I've done 12 years of kettlebells straight and tens of thousands of repetitions. And I just decided this year I'm not going to train with them that much because I think if I come back to them in the future, I'm going to have a new appreciation for this. Have you ever gone like through any of those phases in your own life? Things again that you found worked for you in the beginning, but they no longer are serving you? Like let's say a back
Yeah,
squat. Do you still back squat?
yeah, I do. First in the back squat. Yeah, I guess I love back squatting, but there's a period where I wasn't using it for a period of time with the total gym. Before I forget though, I mean, maybe pop my head in those as you were talking is in some ways what I do in this garage is already just tailored to that. So I get
Mhm,
new stuff in, I try something and I have to push something out. Now there are some kind of staples, but there's a lot of times I'm forced to try something different. And it's interesting. I always think about like how much of this training would I actually be doing or would I be using this if I didn't have this outlet and be spoiled to the idea, well, if I don't like this, I'll get something else in. Or not everyone's gonna have that. And
mhm,
I always warn people with the home gym, at least for me, like it's really would only stick if I have like some pieces that I really love that I never get sick of grabbing and touching because I had the basic stuff when I had my home gym at home, but I never used it just because I didn't like the way it felt. It didn't feel as good as like going to the gym, popping a pin on versus putting weights on. Even the power blocks. Some people love power blocks. Like I'd use them, but my dumbbells I got now are just much more aesthetically pleasing and I really want to use them. So you can have all the essentials and still not want to use your stuff and maybe want to go to a gym or you get, just you're bored of it. So I think what you're doing makes a lot of sense just intuitively to kind of switch things up. So I think it's great advice. But as far as stuff that I stuck to and don't do anymore, well, kettlebells is one that unfortunately wielding maces around. Like I used to wield a mace around. I would do the
mhm,
traditional maces. I would kind of have this homemade one. I used to do a lot of long distance running. I don't do that at all anymore. I mentioned it before if you've on the channel, whatever, that Born to Run book. I'm loving
mhm.
that. Sorry, Born to Walk book. It's kind of selling me again in my thoughts about running because I would do a lot of running. Oh, well, I'm going to dive rabbit hole. But anyways, running, excess cardio, and I feel like I've gone back to my roots, if anything. I've gone back to what I used to do as a kid, just having fun, and I'm less regimented where I was into, heavily functional training or heavily calisthenics or heavily Olympic lifting, heavy power lifting or strength building, whatever you want to call it that. So I went through all those waves. And I think after you go through it enough times, just like with dieting, you go through enough dieting, and you're like, I kind of know myself enough right now where I'm in a comfortable spot. And will I get the itch to do some of that stuff? Maybe. But power stuff too is something I know I should do more of that and I lost it. Even the total gym, like maybe you can relate with like bands, like you hold on to stuff, but I'm recognizing now the importance of when I was just in the total gym training, I knew I was going to lose some strength. I'm sacrificing some stuff. But when I went back to barbells, I'm like, I kind of forgot the form I used, how I dialed stuff in. And I think for
Mhm.
a lot of people, if they're not used to doing that background or just they're just an on and off again trainer, they're gonna be like, oh, I can't do it because my shoulder hurts. And then you make an excuse when really it's like, no, you just lost that skill. You got to build that back up again. And unfortunately, as you get older, it's going to be a little harder and longer to build it back up. So I
Yeah.
am conscientious of that. That is stuff like squatting is another thing. Like I wasn't doing squatting for a while, and I was like, stuff's just feeling heavier than it should be. And I'm going back to like my really big, I love doing deep squatting. You got to be obviously find the thing that kind of works for you, but that's to the point now where it just feels so good again. Like I remember how it used to feel, that I'm trying to make sure I keep that in the rotation.
Okay. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that answer. That makes a lot of sense, and this comes from a perspective of someone who's been lifting for so long, so you know these things. You know, one thing I never really talk about, I've just always done it since I was a kid, are some basic calisthenics movements, pull-ups, push-ups, some sort of lunges or jumping variations, or even just the ability to run or sprint. Are there a lot of calisthenics in your program that you do?
It's funny you bring that up because that would be something that I definitely lost that I used to do a lot of. So when I had that
Okay.
calisthenic going through the kind of the conditioning, I would do the one arm like that. And honestly, I'd have this little routine in later years, even like my mid 30s, where I'd still, if I was in the gym, I'd have this little routine I do at the end, halfway kind of showing off. I don't want to say I was showing off like trying to, but I'd have this little thing where I go up in a little station and I'd be doing all my little things, my one arm push ups, trying to do my back bends, I'd do my muscle ups and handstand push ups. And I would do it all the time. That was, and actually, I shouldn't say I'm like showing off. It was just something fun that if you saw me, like this guy must be a showboat and whatever. But I had
Yeah.
my little thing I would do. And unfortunately, I do not do that anymore. So now we're talking about this in my head. I'm like, I got to, even
Got to
just doing
get
a
back to
handstand
it.
push up. Yeah, I got to get back into it. Yeah.
Yeah, so one thing, I like to have party tricks. I've always been able since high school, I've been able to do a back tuck, a backflip. So, I mean, that's
See,
kind
I've
of
never
an
done that.
on-demand yeah, on-demand thing. The cheerleaders actually taught me, and then I had a gymnastics coach in my 20s. But at Strong First, one thing I like about the Strong First is, I mean, it's got a lot of great things about it, but what I love is you have to pass tests to get the certifications and then do recertifications. But in the bodyweight certification, men have to do a one arm, one leg push-up. And once you learn how to do this, it's actually not that hard. Obviously, you have to get very stiff in order to do it and learn the proper technique. But when I start with a new client, I always show them that trick. Just like, whoa, this guy can do that one thing. I think you could probably do it. Maybe we'll talk about training you into a one arm, one leg push up.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, kind of tying off this home gym section, I want to give you a quick challenge, and I'm only going to give you about 5 to 10 seconds to answer. If you had to keep three things from your home gym you can look around, which items would they be?
Total gym, squat max, probably that rack right there.
Okay. So that
That
was
was easy.
actually pretty easy. So that squat rack, just remind me, I know it has the basketball hoop on top, which is awesome. Who makes that one?
That's Force USA's FTR, and I had to go back with Force USA. Some of their stuff I like, some stuff I didn't. But I got to see their stuff firsthand, and this is one to make it sound like I'm not just shilling for them. I always like I was kind of pushing back against them for a little bit because I just didn't get a chance to really hands on use it. Anyways, once I've gotten to use it, I got 3 racks here right now. And you could say objectively on paper, some people would think these other two are actually objectively better than this one. But I like this one because of the design. It's more compact, especially if you got like a home gym. Just in the way it's kind of articulated. It's not too expensive either. I did get this one for free though, so I'm not admitting that. But the arms adjust up and down. And I just like it because you got your cable box checked. It's aesthetically pleasing. It works out where I do things like I'll do kickbacks and I can hold on like right here. All my stuff just works here, like this little henny strap. And these arms aren't too big. There's enough increments, but it's not too many. This thing free flows. And again, you have your functional, like just a rack to do all your barbell stuff. So for me,
Ah,
this just checked everything.
yeah.
It's not super heavy, but I don't feel like I don't really go super heavy really
On
anymore,
cable, yeah.
honestly.
And
Yeah.
actually, I saw you doing kickbacks on that today on Instagram, so I thought that was pretty cool. And correct me if I'm wrong. Basically, those arms are essentially like a jammer connection.
These right here.
Yes, you remember that
No,
old
these
school
are,
hammer strength piece of equipment called the jammer?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. That was actually one of my favorite machines. One of my favorite lifts I ever did in high school was a jammer machine.
Of
But
course.
no, this actually does not do that. So this is what this is. These are just articulating arms just for the cable to get kind of like a free motion machine,
Okay, so
at
when
the
you do
gym. Yeah.
those types of movements, you connect those straps. I can't remember the brand and something like a barbell.
Yeah. I mean, this is just a basic cable thing. So I'll just use this for basic cable stuff. That's all I use that for. But then you have these Henny straps, like Henny.com would sells these, but you can put a barbell on here and do some stuff out here. So I do a variety of things with this. I was into jammer arms for a bit, and that was something I still like them, but I've been using this simple attachment that I feel like I get kind of the same kind of arcing effect. And
Mhm.
people always said, whenever I got my jammer arms, I went through like 2 or 3 different companies to try them out. I thought I'd always have them on there. They are cool, but you need them to be, if they're on a trolley, it's usable. But I got kind of spoiled with this kind of compact nature that I really didn't know if I really need a jammer arm.
Okay. Well understood, and those are great answers to what you keep. I gotta check out that Squat Max HD because you keep talking about that. So, just pivoting a little bit. Now, this is a subject I've really wanted to speak with you about, and it's kind of the fitness career paths. I think this will hold a lot of value to a lot of the listeners or the viewers of this, but what are your thoughts on what you can do in the fitness industry? Obviously, I'm a personal trainer, I have an online business, and I'll do things like home gym design and some consulting. But where did you think that you were going to start in personal training, and where have you ended up within the fitness realm?
I think I knew right away when I was starting. Like I knew obviously I want to do something in fitness, of course. But then you start being thinking personal training. Personal training, you've done it. Everyone else has done it. If you've been in a gym, I mean, it's a grind. It's not easy work. If I meet someone who's an older personal trainer, any personal trainer, I'm like, I understand what they're doing. I mean, it's a special type of person who can do that, and also not only do it well with education, but also do it in a way where you're physically, like mentally on, not just checking out, obviously, have the coffee and pushing a pin. It was a lot of work where I knew earlier on that I couldn't personally keep up with that lifestyle. Like when I did like the 4 o'clock, the 4 a.m. wake ups, sometimes 3:30 a.m. to get to my whatever 5 a.m. client. And then you get the mid afternoon, I'll be sleeping in the parking lot. And then I go up back out again at night, repeat that again. So like that's when I first started taking like melatonin. When melatonin was just starting to kick up, and I'd be taking like 10 milligram melatonin and just fall asleep to be so wired. So I knew I couldn't do that lifestyle forever. So I needed something that was like an outlet for me. Teaching, I think probably was that. I think teaching, seeing that lifestyle, I was like, well, I like if I could give me a job where I can still work out, give me an incentive to be in shape, learn stuff, and then teach it back to people. To me, it's like that's exactly what I'd like to do. With selling it, and nowadays I think so that's an option for people. But I think nowadays what's great is that I would say this to students or even parents will ask, what's my kid going to do with a exercise science degree or kinesiology degree? And I would say it's a lot like business. I mean, there's so many opportunities. It just depends what you want to make out of it. I think like anything, it's the stereotypical thing. Like you got to have a passion behind it. And like we said at the start of the video, like, I don't think everybody has that. I think a lot of people think fitness is cool, and I think it's fun, and nothing's funner, especially than just watching people work out or getting in there and kind of messing around. But I don't think everybody can, like any job, and not everybody can do it or should they do it because it seems interesting and cool. So I could riff on that too, but
Yeah,
that's what
of
that sounds like a
course.
downer to that sounds like a downer answer. But I guess like, there's so many opportunities now. I think
Yeah.
no question there is.
Yeah, I worked at 2 big box gyms before I finally got brave enough to go into business for myself, and I had always had this understanding that you could get these really, I don't know what to call them, high-end VIP clients, and eventually it led me to a very good path, and then again with the online stuff. But it's interesting for you because you've gone through all of this stuff, but you've been very successful with content creation. I don't know a better word to call that, but obviously I'm a subscriber to your content on YouTube. And a lot of people want that, I guess, flexibility in their life. I don't know if they understand what goes into it. So, on a weekly basis, let me just ask you first, how much time does it consume for you to produce these videos? Or does that not even matter because you love doing it so much?
The latter, but it's a lot of time. But it's time enough where you don't think about it. And I say this a lot. I learned this lesson. I think just doing this stuff that yeah, you get like a freaking. I got off camera. There's boxes. I mean, it's insane. I got another crates outside, and every time like I'm out to another one, but I'm like, oh, I want to check that machine out. So, it comes, so it does take a lot of time. And like I said, if you told me what it was initially, the amount of time I put into it, I'm like, no, I can't. I won't be able to mentally handle this. But it's enough where it's enjoyable enough, and I have a nice of a flow that it works. No, you don't. Like the only day I take off is Sunday. Honestly, I should get more of a balance with it. I'm one of those people that can't say no to things either. Of people, but again, it's fun. I don't say this is like I'm having a good time. Like talking to you, I could talk for like 4 hours right now about this, no question. So yeah, it goes back to again, it's got to be someone's a passion, but it is a lot of time. So like a video is going to take you. Like if you make one video, even the style that I do it, which doesn't have fancy light. I don't know. Like I have one light over here, but this is just basic lights, as you can tell with a poor visuals you're getting in this video here. That it'll take me it's like at least 10 hours of one video that's 10 minutes long. I mean, if you think of like you're recording stuff for it in the morning, just doing a video or recording part of it, editing it up, and then you got to fit it into like a full-time job. And there are a lot of guys doing this content who are full-time. To me, that's just if I didn't have kids or a wife and stuff like that, my wife doesn't work. That's where like, yeah, you got to have I think jobs benefits is helpful. I have a lot of
Right.
kids too, some medical bills and things like that. but it's doable. So I'm not trying to. I think it depends. Everyone's got a different state in life, but I think the best advice I give to people, and I talk to a lot of people who start stuff like this, is just I think you just got to start small and something that's manageable that you can do that's consistent. I guess the same advice for fitness, honestly, too.
I love that. That's a really good answer.
Yeah.
So, I've been a manager at certain gyms. I did corporate wellness for a while, and it was always funny hiring personal trainers because I don't know if it was the generation, maybe 10 years younger than me, but they would say, "Yeah, I'll work Monday through Friday, but I'm not going to work the weekends." And I was always like, "Well, that's when you're going to get all the clients." And I just kind of realized, okay, I'm going to get those clients and you're not. So I would joke with them. They would say they want to do social media. They want to be an influencer. I said, I don't think you realize that you're trading your 9 to 5 job for a 24/7 job. And they go on this
Yeah.
path. And I don't know if they've been successful, but I know with my work, I try and get all my personal training clients done. And then in the late afternoon, after I've done my me time, whether I'm outside or training, then Diana and I will work on the online stuff. But it's busy days. It's 10, 12 hours of work per day. But again, you have the passion behind it. So it becomes a lot more fun. Okay, that's very satisfactory. I think there are a lot of people who can get into this industry and do something different than the personal training in the big box gym. And if you're just getting into that stuff right now, just don't let them burn you out because they will burn you out to make a nickel and a dime. It doesn't matter who you are or your personal training, but they want you to sell, sell, sell. And you have to find a balance with that stuff because when you're 20, you can do 12-hour days, but when you're 30, you're not going to want to. And when you're 40, you're definitely not going to want to do that stuff. Okay. Anything else to add on kind of the career perspective people could go?
Yeah, I think you hit it. I think that last part is great because I even say that people are going to college. The same thing. I mean, you could get into, I guess, in retrospect, best thing I wish I would have done, which I kind of did in a certain way. But if you stay in one place long enough, I mean, actually, with any job, I mean, yeah, you're going to be taken for a ride, and you blink an eye, and 10 years goes by. So I think, yeah, trying to manage out and carve that time and I think finding that niche, making sure you have a passion about something. I hate almost even saying that because, like, obviously, but I don't think everybody has that. I guess that's one last thing. I talk to a lot of people, and with students, you see it a lot. They really want to get into fitness. They like fitness. And I made this example too, and I wanted to be a filmmaker. I always tell those people a lot, like that was what I wanted to do. I want to be a filmmaker. I'm going to edit videos. I did everything from sound production, being on sets. And I realized, like, no, I don't like it as much as these guys. Like they would be here all day. Like they eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. Like, I like it to maybe like the 75% level like they do. And I think there's a lot of people in fitness that they just feel like I can't find anything else I'm really into. So I'll just default to that when maybe there's another job out there that's exactly for you. So I'm not saying it's not that, but maybe it's even just working in a particular sector of fitness. Maybe you're more into sales, maybe you're into more like a product development, doing something like this. Like you want to be at the home just talking about home gym equipment. That's honestly a sector right there.
Mhm.
So I think just finding what really suits your niche, and there's so many options out there, which is really the best time, I think, really to grab it.
Yeah, I agree. And the education out there, I've been kind of a concierge personal trainer for at least 12 years now, but I kind of went the direction of knowing more like the functional lab testing stuff because so many of my clients have concierge doctors. So I wanted that deeper understanding. And it's been a very good niche for me, but that doesn't mean it's not a lot of hard work. And I still am one of those guys who wakes up at 4:30. So yeah, you got to take that with a grain of salt. Now, I want to get to just kind of some maybe more rapid fire stuff, some advice and takeaways coming from you and your experience. One question. If someone feels stuck right now, what should they do this week?
In anything in life, or you're saying about this
You
or
can
just
take it
career?
however you'd like. It's a broad question on purpose because I just want to see your answer to it.
Okay, I like it. I would say you gotta, if someone's stuck in something, I think you gotta disconnect. I think that's the best thing. I think you could hunker down, and this is me, I'm talking to myself right now sometimes. I think disconnecting, faith's a big part of my life. It was always there, but it was a lot more serious now. And I think a lot of things I learned from that is it literally is like you don't try and force things. So I think kind of stepping back. So I think if you were stuck, I would say try and carve out a day. You gotta take a mini vacation, what it might be. I think you gotta just step away from it. I think if you're stuck, but again, I guess and it depends. I need more out of that question to go more detail. But I think I would say step away from whatever it is that's making you stuck.
Okay, that's a
Yeah.
great answer. Now, if you only had 30 minutes 3 times a week to train, what would that look like?
30 minutes 3 times a week. It would be very fast supersets. Very simple. I'd actually probably be using my total. I'd be using I call it the trifecta: total gym bands, dumbbells, and that would be my workout. I'd be just stringing through those. Still, on my leg day, I'd be doing some barbell squatting, but it would be a lot of just supersets and very quick workouts.
Okay.
Big believer in
Do
those.
you
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of leg stuff with dumbbells?
No, and that's his personal preference. Like I know dumbbell lunges are awesome. I just don't like the exercise, so I have to choose not to do it. So
Okay,
simple answer to
interesting.
that one. Yeah.
It's so funny because, you know, just kind of the functional background, the unilateral stuff. I've always been very good at deadlifting and strong at squatting, but I hate squatting. It's not my favorite thing to do. So
Yeah.
I don't do it that much. I rely more on like Bulgarian split squats if I have to
Yeah.
squat. But yeah, the barbell stuff, not my favorite. On to the next one. What advice would you give a new trainer?
Better. There's a lot of stuff to go in there. Best advice, just general advice, I guess would be education. That would probably be the biggest thing. Avoid getting stuck in your ways. I think a lot of trainers, that's just kind of a stereotypical answer again, but most of my meet, especially when I was working with trainers and training them, they would pretty much just like train people exactly how they want to be trained. And I've kind of gone back and more grace to that idea. Like, if it's working and it's good and people are liking it, why not do that? And a lot of good trainers that do that method. So I don't think there's really anything wrong with that. But there's a lot of them that are just like, "No, I'm not changing this is how I do it." And I had good advice the mentor taught me, who I was questioning one guy's modalities or one guy had a thing where he would just one trainer we worked with, he was a seasoned trainer. His whole gimmick was he'd give his clients like a 10-pound dumbbell or 20-pound dumbbell. And for like an hour, he would just give them exercise and they could not let go of the dumbbells, which sounds just brutally hard. I was like, why would you want to do that? Anyway, they're talking about this guy. And he just said, just because you're doing something long enough doesn't mean you're good at it, which was I thought I always resonated in my head. For training, that's something that the client's not going to know, but other trainers will know.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
And I came up with a question I want to ask you. Let's say you're going on a family vacation to the beach, you're going down to Florida or something, and there is no gym, no equipment. What does your fitness look like for that long weekend that you're in Florida?
It would probably be bands, honestly. I would probably bring bands. That would be the easiest thing. I should do more. I love doing kind of easier calisthenics. Like instead of doing push-ups, I like doing just going on my knees. I don't care. Like I feel like I get more out of the push-up, more of a pump doing that. If I had a pull-up bar, same thing. Like I'll use an assisted pull-up to get
Mhm.
more reps out of it. So a little bit of calisthenics and finding a tree, going outside, maybe sprinting back and forth. That would be probably something for sure. Taking advantage of nature, and then probably resistance bands.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Those are really good answers. So it's been a good conversation so far, Mike. I want to know, where can people find you? What is your preferred social media? Because I know you're not so much an Instagram guy, even though you're still on Instagram.
Instagram is easier to reach me. Probably YouTube is good. Of course, Mike at Hybrid Resistance email is good. It's funny of all
Uh-huh.
the different ways to see it. Just the way I'm so used to YouTube. YouTube, I answer questions the fastest, and I always try to answer everybody's question, which that's probably bad business advice. That's not efficient or use of your time, but for some people, yeah, probably just YouTube and stuff like that. I'm sad this is coming to an end, John, because I want to keep talking to you. I want to keep talking. Listen, yeah.
We got to do part two because there's so much to talk about and so much from this outline I prepared that we didn't get to talk about, but that'll leave the door open for later on. Well, anyway, Mike, I super appreciate you. Really nice guy. I found you to be a wealth of knowledge in a field where everyone's after these really quick dopamine hits, and I'm after education. And I feel like I found your channel and you've been a great educator to me. And it's really rare. So I want to encourage everyone to get on YouTube, watch some of your videos because I think you're going to learn something. And it's special to have you here.
Likewise, John. I couldn't say the same thing about you. No question.
Oh,
When I started meeting you, I'm like, we're cut from the same yarn. I'm not putting myself on your level. You got me on the training for sure all the years. So, and obviously people can see your shirt off. So they already proof is in the pudding.
hey, hey, you're bigger than me though, bro. So that counts for something.
I just eat more. That's all.
All right, bro.
So.
Well, I appreciate the time and thank you everyone for listening. This is the Axis method and we'll catch you guys next time.